Good evening, everyone, and welcome to round 7 of the TCAC Retro Le Mans Minis Championship, presented to you by Endurance Chat Media. I'm Michael Zalavari. I'll be with you tonight for round 7 of this championship. We are running the sprint format at the Gran Premio di San Marino at the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari, the 1972 version of the Imola Grand Prix circuit. And here it is in all its glory tonight. We will be running the sprint format, so 2 sessions of qualifying, 2 race sessions, each of 20 minutes plus 1 lap. And this very high speed, very flowing circuit is sure to throw up a few challenges for the, at the moment, 14 car field that we have tonight. Let's check in on our championships, and after taking the overall victory at Brands Hatch last time out in the endurance event, Steve Bolger holds the championship lead over Cracker by a solitary 2 points at the moment of the championship. Of course, with Steve's extra wins, though, that means that he does have a 40 kilogram weight penalty, which is no small feeling in the 600 kilogram cars compared to Cracker's 10 kilos. So look for that to be a point of difference throughout the evening. At the minute, we do not have any other Class B runners, but we have heard... Oh, we do have Nathan Higginson, apologies, in the server, so he will be challenging for points tonight. In Class B, it is Will Devonish ahead of his teammate Termo. They've been performing a ding-dong battle throughout the season. Devonish and Termo are currently almost on the same weight level, so there's nothing to separate them there. And it's sure to be a cracking evening's action tonight. Also in Class B, we have Leonard Drossel, Termo, and Luke Joyner, as well as Matt Cecil in the server tonight. And 1 or 2 guest entries, which may pop in as we get along into the evening. In Class C, it's Mike Coulston currently leading the championship with the Chevron, as I think we're good with the stream, the Chevron holding the championship lead at the minute. With that as well, Mike has the largest weight penalty of the Class C cars at 15 kilos. Keep an eye out, though, tonight for Cameron Rutledge, who seems to have the pace in the Matra. Just looking quickly at practice times, he has been the one to beat. Now let's take a look at this beautiful circuit here. Oh, that's why that's going the way that it's going, Michael. Just pressing buttons and refreshing pages, I shouldn't. So, this is a beautiful circuit. The Imola Circuit, the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari, the 1972 layout, the fast layout. No funny chicanes here. It is all power and it is all passion, as they like to say. Starting off with the run from the start line through the sweeping Tambarello corner. In these cars, it is foot flat to the floor. Then through to Variante Villeneuve, a subtle kink to the right before diving on the brake pedal into Tosa. This is probably the hardest braking point on the track. Short shoot uphill to Piratella, then dive back down the hill. This is a very important section of track into the double apex left-hander at Aqua Minerale in all of its clay brick glory there. There's no Variante Alta. There's no chicane at Variante Alta. It is just a run down the hill into Ravazza, and in this format, that is one of the most important corners on the track. Braking hard down to second gear in these cars, and then power through the second half of it to take you back onto the long straight. It is 5 kilometers. Cars are lapping in around the 1 minute 48, 1 minute 50 mark, depending on the class. We have a qualifying, 15 minutes of qualifying and 2 20-minute races for you this evening. We have 13 minutes left in practice, so we've got enough time to have a quick look at the cars as they go around. So as we'll just bring in, we're watching Termo here at the minute. Termo is challenging for the Class B championship lead as we come through onto the main straight. So we'll watch Termo just to give you a bit of an idea of how this track looks. He's of course in the Ferrari 312P thanks to Robert Harvey Repairs is the sponsor on the car. Here is Tambarello beautiful, long, sweeping corner. Some of the feedback I've been getting from the drivers as we've led into the race has been that you really feel the bumps in this circuit as we're on the high cam in the helicopter for Varianti Villeneuve and Tosa, the hardest braking on the track. He does run just a little wide there, Turbo. Not as wide as Nathan Higginson, who exits stage right. As does, I think that's Luke Joyner in the background as well. And then here we go through Piratella. A rise onto the tableland, then down the hill. Turbo just a little wide on the entry there, but fires it back down the hill. Not as important in this format of this part of the track, sorry, as we get through Aqua Minerale. Not as important to take every little bit of road there as it is in the modern circuit, because this portion of the track is much more flowing, so it's really important to get the maximum exit out of Aqua Minerale, and Turbo's half a second up on his PB. He's been winding into it, Turbo. He hasn't really had the outright pace of Leonard Grosel or Will Devonish in that Class B machine, but he's been slowly improving as he comes through what used to be Variante Alta, and then into here, into Ravazza. Difficult braking zone, as Turbo demonstrates for us, because the track bends to the right. As you start to get onto the brakes, it actually kind of falls away from you, so you can kind of get a little too narrow on the entry there. And then exiting Ravazza down the long straight, there is no Variante Bassa. It is just power and power and power and power and power. Turbo doesn't dip into the 149s. He's still in 6th place. Let's have a look at who else we've got throughout the field tonight. SDS Racing, for your benefit, the Autodromo Enzo et Nino Ferrari. There you go. For you, I'm doing that. We've got Cam Rutledge. He's leading the Class C times at the minute in the Matra 650S. It's looking very smooth. Somehow, Cam has managed to find 3 or 4 seconds over the rest of the Class C field. And I reckon he knows we're talking about him because he's totally backed off. He's not willing to reveal his secrets, is Cam. So we'll let him go for the moment. Luke Joyner is here in the second of the MHRT Ferraris in queue in the number 7 car. He's got a Alfa Romeo just behind him, and I expect that might be Lewis Wedding, but we'll catch up with that a little later on. Here's Matt Cecil in his Ford GT for AP Sim Sports, the GT40 Mark 1. We'll hear a little bit more about the GT40 Mark 1 later on this evening. I'll give you a little preview as to what the special might be for today. We'll leave that one there, see if you can guess it in the live chat. Mike Colston returns in the Saudi Camel. He was very happy in midweek to be the top of the list, which wasn't the ranking of the most like the biggest wankers. So very happy for Mike to be leading the Class C Championship at the minute. He's certainly got a battle on his hands if he is 4 seconds behind Cam Rutledge's best times at the moment. Rhodey's also here in the Class C battle tonight. He's got a half a second or so to gain on Mike Coulston. There's Manuel Centeno on the Porsche 906, pardon me, with those big spade-like wings on the front. Lachlan Burke appears in his Ford GT40 Mark 1. So we'll catch up with Burke. A very stacked Class B grid once again. We have Roland Ratzenberger in an Alpha 33. I suspect that might be Brendan Ross. The Alpha does seem to be a popular one tonight. We'll find out a little way later on. Here's our current fastest man. It is Cracker in the number 64 917. Certainly a 1:45.7 is a great lap, and he's almost gone quicker again on that one. He's got Steve Bolger for company at the head of the timing sheets. Class A cars should have a bit of an advantage here. It is very open. It is probably the most open and fast track we've been to since Monza, perhaps? I'm struggling to remember some of the other tracks we've been to in the interim. So certainly an advantage for the big booming engines of the Class A cars, which is honestly why it's so surprising that Cameron Rutledge Cam Rutledge rather, is so far up the field. There's not really a lot of places where you're really applying the brakes here, as Steve Bolger maybe should have thought about applying the brakes as he hits the wall at Tambarello. Nathan Higginson's in Class A as well tonight, so we have 3 of the Class A runners. And if you are watching in the audience and you do want to give these cars a go, we do have wildcards available in all the classes. We do in fact have 2 wildcard runners tonight, so we'll stick with Nathan Higginson, as there is a very interesting... Actually, we're not going to stick with Nathan Higginson. We're going to go find Jules Bianchi. So, looks like this will be Lewis Wedding, of course. He's driving the Ferrari 512. And we'll hear a little more about Lucien and the Bianchi name a little later on this evening. He will be the first feature that we have for you tonight. A very tragic name in the period of sports cars we are looking at. But a driver who had a very interesting career nonetheless. So Lewis is holding that for us. We'll have a look again. Nathan Higginson, he's off track. Will Devonish, we haven't yet seen. He's currently in 5th. The leading Class B runner so far. And Leonard Gersel returns in the Solar Productions 908. The short neck version of the 908. And he currently sits in 6th place. Impressive from Lachlan Burke, actually. Sitting in 7th overall. That's a pretty good time from him. So we'll hopefully see more of him tonight. And looks like people are just finishing up. It looks like Brendan Ross has jumped in the Porsche. I don't know why these guys are running the plain white offline liveries, as opposed to the wildcard liveries that we have prepared. I guess they just want to stand out tonight. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but the drivers have reported back to me that the the bumps on this circuit are really quite challenging, especially with those running high levels of force feedback. So look for some of the drivers to maybe struggle a little bit with surviving the bumps, especially into the braking zones, especially like here at Tosa. The car gets a little unsettled, and it's a similar story, just in the opposite elevation when we get to Ravazza, because if we find another car at Tosa, what I might do is I might see if we can cycle through. That's not what I want. Here. So when you come through Variante Villeneuve, the car is moving to the left. You're turning right, so the car wants to drift out to the left, but you actually have to kind of hug that right hand side and basically try and brake in as straight a line as you can. I was finding that in the Class B cars, I could brake just at the 100 board, but in the Class A cars, as we'll watch Manuel Centino here in the Class C car, looking like he's braking just beyond the 100 board. In the Class A cars, you kind of have to brake on that little patch there, or just before it. So you really have to, as Nathan Higginson tries his very best to try and drift one of these midgets. And actually, what we'll do is we'll get back to Cracker, because he's on a cracking lap at the minute. What you have to do there is you have to make sure that you've really got the car in a straight line when you hit the brakes. And the same story here at Ravazza. The track drops away instead of rising up, and you're going to hug the right hand side and hit the brakes in as much of a straight line as you possibly can. Cracker does very nicely there, and then if you line it up right, you can almost go full throttle through the second part of Ravazza and get all the way through the final part of the lap. Cracker left a little bit of room on the outside, so didn't quite maximize his exit line, but still looking for a very quick lap here from Cracker. And he goes to the top by half a second as well, so really turning the screws there is Cracker. By the way, if you do want to follow on along with live timing, you can find the live timing server at asrleague.liveracers.com and follow the TCAC Midgets link to find the live timing. There you'll be able to see the sector marks and all of the classes and everyone's lap times as they go through it. And just by the way, while we're here, I just want to have a look at Aqua Minerale. I love those big clay brick facade. I have absolutely no idea what it's there for. I reckon it might be something to do the name Aqua Minerale suggests to me that it's some sort of water processing plant or water milling plant. So that would be what my thoughts are. But I do just absolutely love that brick facade there, and I do love the very sort of homely Italian aspects of this circuit back in the 1970s. You do have the main straight with the stands and everything, of course, but there is also things as we'll go around and we'll watch Bolger, and we'll just take a look as we go around. You know, those hedges on the side, the trees overhanging the circuit, the house that we'll see just pop into view at Variante Villeneuve. It is just very... Oh, as we lose Bolger entirely. Oh, there he is. There's the house on the exit there. And you can just see those little houses in the background. That's just all very nice and Italian. It makes me nostalgic for something that I don't understand. As there's Bolger again. A little bit of lag issues following the bulge. We are running the updated server tonight, or we might have seen a few weeks ago, if you were following our coverage from VIR, that we had some server lag issues. It turns out that Will Devonish, who runs the server, his computer basically had packed it in entirely and was slowly dying. So we have run on a server thanks to Steve DeFries, Netherrealmian, who does all the graphics for us. So thank you very much, Nether, for doing all that for us. He put together the server for last week. And now this time we're back on Will's server, and those server issues have been rectified. So we should be running without any lag issues as well, which should be very, very nice indeed. See what I mean there about the braking zone into Ravazza? Bolger getting very sort of narrow because he kind of follows the track as it bends away. He kind of heads in a straight line there, braking maybe a little too early. So yes, thank you very much, of course, to Will for putting the server together, to Rody for all of his admin work. Brock, if he ever turns up again, thank you for putting the mod together. It's a cool mod, and we've had a lot of opportunities for some cool stories sharing through this mod. And Mike for all his work, Mike Coulston on the admin board. Nether for the graphics, of course. Couldn't do any of this. All of the stuff, by the way, all the broadcast graphics, all the broadcast scenes and everything, I don't know how to do any of it. Nether's taught me how to do all of it. It's Nether who's helped me put this all together. So thank you, Nether. And good news on the commentary front, if you have been missing esteemed the voice of Kiwi Chris Riddell. He has managed to find himself in a position where he might be able to join us for the next round of the championship. So it'll be good to hear our old friend Kiwi back again. As the timer is clicked over for practice, so we'll head into qualifying very shortly. Drivers are just finishing up their last laps around. So we'll find one near the start-finish straight and just see the cars come over. Here's Manuel Santino in the Wildcat 906. And we'll just find our way to the... Oh, I really should have checked off all of these camera angles before the start of the broadcast. But, you know, I had too much fun jumping around in the server. So just to remind you once again, our race facts for the evening. 5 laps, or 5.0 kilometers is this format of the circuit, the Imola Grand Prix circuit. 9 corners, 3 that you really have to worry about. 4 that you really have to worry about here. And those are Tosa, the hairpin at the top right. Piratella diving back down the hill. Aqua Minerale in the middle of the picture there. And Ravazza to finish off the lap. Sprint format tonight, so a single qualifying session of 15 minutes and then 2 20-minute races. Based on the lap times, we should be seeing around on 7, 8, 9 laps tonight for each of the races. As the cars are ready to go at the exit of pit lane for qualifying. They're eager as they can be. They've fought 5 wide at the exit of pits. And they've all managed to sneak their way out onto track without too much issue. And look at them go. That's a beautiful shot there of the cars coming out of pit lanes. Very colourful grid we have. Thank you very much to all of the livery designers. I know Rody's put together a bunch of them, including a few of the wildcard liveries as well. We've got a few drivers still in the lane. There's Luke Joyner, Mike Coulston, Roland Ratzenberger, who I'm pretty sure is Brendan Ross, and Jules Bianchi, which I'm pretty sure is Lewis Wedding. Interesting that he's in the Ferrari and not in the Alfa Romeo, which is a bold choice. Drivers are really looking to crack on with it and get some space. They're really jumping out in a bit of a pack here. So at the minute, it looks like Higginson's got the lead of this group and will be, by proxy, the first one to set a lap, assuming nothing goes awry as the field comes through Aqua Minerale. That's a cool corner. And trust me, if you hit that curb on the inside and you manage to control the slide on the exit, it feels bloody nice. And you can already see the speed difference between the Class A cars and the Class B cars. Nathan Higginson not stressing too much about stretching his way away from the field, because the Class A power will just take it away. So here we go then, the first laps in anger of the Imola Circuit, the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari. Again, just for SDS Racing's benefit. And we're away. We'll refer to the sector markers throughout the qualifying session. The first sector runs from the start-finish line through to the exit of the Tosa hairpin. Second sector runs from that point all the way through Pilotello, down the hill into Aqua Minerale and just out the other side. And then the third sector encompasses the very fast run from Aqua Minerale down to Ravazza and then back to the main straight. Nathan Higginson will be the first one to set a sector time in anger, and he's just put it wide at Tosa. So he might not be the first one, but he hasn't gone as wide as Matt Cecil. And he breaks the timing beam at a 32.5. Which is immediately eclipsed by Lennart Grösel and then Steve Bolger. Bolger on a 30.4 as the fastest time to the first sector. Now we dive down through Piratella. Now Higginson might be told to get out of the way here because he's got Termo and Grösel behind, who are both on quicker laps. Through Aqua Minerale, a lot of curb there from Higginson, maybe a little too much as he's pulled wide. I think he's just about to get out of it here. There's the second sector mark. No second sector mark for Higginson. I think he got a track cut there. We'll jump on to Grösel. Actually, we'll see if we can just find our way onto whereabouts is Steve Bolger, because he had the fastest time to the second sector mark. Purple in the first, purple in the second as they come through Ravazza. Nice. Oh! Had to avoid the spinning Lachlan Burke there right on the apex. That's going to compromise everyone's lap there, so I don't think anyone's going to be too broken up about it. But here's the run from Ravazza down through what would normally be Variante Basso and onto the main straight. The Bulge goes top, a 47.9, so that's nowhere near the times we saw in practice. The best time in practice was a 44.4, so that's the kind of marker we're going for here as we come on to our second lap. And I think everyone in this group was significantly impacted. Oh, as Bulge is going to go wide there. Yeah, he hits the wall. That's not going to be very pretty, and he jumps straight out of it. Grösel runs wide at Tosa, and we'll jump on to Termo then. I think a lot of drivers are going to be looking... everyone got balked by Lachlan Burke at the Ravazza corner, so no one's able to get that power down. And remember, you're flat on the throttle here from Ravazza as Termo runs wide at Piratella, so this isn't going to be an improvement from him. We'll see who has got the quick stuff this time around. I reckon it might be this man, Will Devonish. Yeah, keeping in mind, excuse me as I interrupt myself, Devonish 0.1 of a second away, but he's going to lose a little bit of time from the head of the field because of the power of the Class A cars in comparison to Class B. And if I'll finally get around to making my point, you're on a full throttle from Ravazza all the way through to Tosa. So it is quite literally half the lap here in that one section on full throttle. It really is a monster of a power track as Devonish takes a narrowish line through the second part of Ravazza, but does very well there to get the throttle on as early as possible. And you really want to get that throttle on as early as possible, especially at Ravazza. I reckon Ravazza and Acqua Minerale are probably the two most important corners on this track. Devonish goes into third, lost it despite his great work through that final sector. Lost time in that final sector. In fact, Cracker improved while we were watching Devonish, so that's why he wasn't nearly as close as we were expecting. Cracker now with a 1:45.6, so still a second to go before we're getting to the lap times that we're expecting here. But Cracker is up, and he's up again to the tune of a 10th. Let's come down Pirutella. Very cool corner. All the corners on this track actually are very cool corners, especially in this 1972 configuration through Acqua Minerale. This is a cool corner. Loaded up braking, turning while braking, then trying to nudge the curb on the inside as you dive down, then come back up. Cracker's 3/10 to the good here, so he might even break into the 44s. That Porsche flat 12 engine, though, sounds divine in the 917. Hugs the inside, actually on the brakes before the exit of the kink there. Trying to get the nose tucked in for Ravazza. Does well to bring the power up nicely. Again, leaving a fair bit of room on the outside. And I'm surprised to see no one really hugging the left-hand side of the track here. Trying to minimize as much of the track as they can. As much difference as they can. Distance rather, to get to the line. But Cracker's going to come to the line, and Higginson just improved, but there's a serious lap time, a 44.7 from Cracker. That's more like it. That's more like we want to see. Higginson, by the way, set a 45.8. Devonish has gone into a 46.7. We've got Roland Ratzenberger, who is Brendan Ross. He's in fourth. He's on a 46.8. And Steve Bolger, Steve hasn't had the best of runs so far. He hasn't improved on that first lap. And remember, that first lap was affected by Lachlan Burke. So he hasn't been able to really improve on his lap time just yet. And someone I am surprised that we haven't seen a decent amount of improvement from isn't Dane Liccardo, who's facing backwards at what looks like Tambarello. Pardon me. Is this man, Mike Coulston. Sorry, not Mike Coulston, rather. Cam Rutledge. Don't know why I said Mike Coulston. Cam Rutledge, he had a significantly better lap time in practice. He was sitting at a 51.1. So he's 5 seconds away from his practice lap time. So hopefully, let's look at the splits on this lap as Steve Bolger finally gets a decent lap together. He goes into third. Rutledge... Has he improved? Yes, he has. And there's a more serious time, a 51.9. That's more like it. So he's still 8/10 away from his best lap. But that's still quite a hefty improvement from where he was. And have a listen to that Matra engine, by the way, as it goes past. Oh, yes. That is the good stuff. Rutledge is, at the moment, the fastest car in Class C. Will Devonish is the fastest car in Class A. That's a bit better from Rutledge. 5/10 almost off his best lap, which is very, very good to see. Devonish particularly looks to be doing it quite easy at the moment at the head of Class B. So Devonish, his next competitor is Leonard Gressel. So that's a full-on 1.5 buffer he has at the minute. So Rutledge does very nicely through Acqua Minerale. Just using all the road on the outside. And this is a serious lap this time around. 1.3 seconds up on his PB. That'll put him around where Lachlan Burke is at the minute, which would be a hefty scalp. As there's yellow flags just ahead. And we can see a puff of smoke. Cam Rutledge actually puts a wheel on the grass there. Has to really narrow up his entry and goes off. And that's thrown away this lap, unfortunately, for Cam. Just got a little too narrow through the kink. And fluffed his braking there, add to arrow to the early apex of the corner, and ran wide and hit the wall. And I don't think we're going to see an improvement from that, because just simply because of how much that's affected his run down the straight. I'll be surprised if we do, and we don't, unfortunately, for Cam. 4 minutes left in this session. It's the only qualifying session of the night. Bianchi still hasn't come out of the pits. Manuel Santino hasn't set a lap. Cracker's just about to start what will be his last run of Flyers. And Higginson's done very nicely to be in second position. There is Higginson with Cam Rutledge just behind. And here's Steve Bolger. So we'll watch Steve as he comes through Aqua Minerale and see where he's at this lap. A 30.7 to the first sector is not incredible, but it's not bad either. He's second sector 58.9, so that's very nice. He's down by 1/10 on his PB. Comes through where Variante Alto should be. Nicely hugs the kink. Brakes in a very, very solid position. And can he get the power on through Ravazza? Does nicely there. Uses all the road. That could be a serious improvement. Not sure how much it's of an improvement it is, but he was very, very quick through Ravazza. Across the line, Steve Bolger is a 46.1. So knocked off half a second, which was 4/10 in that last sector alone, but still behind Nathan Higginson in second place. Has put a little bit of a buffer zone to this man, Will Devonish, who's just come through Tosa, now down the hill at Piratella. Remember, the classes are separated here in scoring, so while they will all grid up in their qualifying positions, doesn't really matter where they are in terms of numerical value. What is important is where they are in relation to their class, as Devonish is still 2/10 under. Very nicely done indeed. Let's see if he can hold on at all through the fastest section of the track. So they are all scored in class at the end of the race. And they are all given weight in class at the end of the race. So it isn't important as to where they place overall, but rather where they are in class, as Devonish doesn't quite nail the apex of the second part of Ravazza, but uses all the road pretty nicely. He might just be able to sneak ahead of Steve Bolger, perhaps. The power difference between the two is going to be a significant mountain to overcome, but Devonish loses out, actually. Lost 3/10 on his own time through the final sector. So we are on everyone's final laps here at the minute. So Bolger will get his lap. Higginson will get his lap. Cracker will get one more lap after this. No times for Manuel Santino or Lewis Wedding. Mike Coulston's done. Dane Liccardo will have one more. He's got to get himself together, because that's not an impressive time at the minute. Rhodey will get another lap in, I think. Rutledge will be on another lap. So let's follow Rutledge to the line and see how he fares. This one isn't quite going to be... Oh, it's going to be... Oh, he does end up... He goes into the 59s. Well done. The 50s, rather. So what we'll do, actually, is we'll stay... Oh, I've messed this up. I was trying to do something cool, and I've messed it up already. Here we go. We'll stay with this shot. Oh, no, we won't. Because Crackers dives into the pits. He's done. What about Bulge? He's got one chance at it. We'll stay with this camera angle here as we'll watch everyone as they come through the line. There's Roland Ratzberger, a.k.a. Brendan Ross. He's on to start his final lap. He currently sits in 5th. The next car we should see will be Rhodey. There he is in the Matra. Let's see what Rhodey does. Does he improve? He does. He improves his time, but not his position for Rhodey. Next car we should see will be Will Devonish. No, he's gone back to the pits. Then it will be Luke Joyner. There's Luke. Luke comes across the line. He's in 8th. He will stay in 8th. Oh, actually, he jumped up to 8th. And there's only the 4 cars still on track now. So we'll find Steve Bolger as he comes through Aqua Minerale. He's the one with the best shot at taking pole. He's just a 10th away from his PB, but more importantly, a second away from the pole time at the minute. The other drivers on track are Matt Cecil. He's got a personal best middle sector. And Brendan Ross. He's not improved so far this lap. And Rhodey. Rhodey will be the last one to cross the line. And it looks like we've lost Steve Bolger. Nope, there he is. Using all the road that he can on through Ravazza. We'll keep you updated with Matt Cecil's time as he comes across the line. And Bolger swings into the pit. So it won't be an improvement from Bolger. Let's find... Oh yeah, that's Brendan Ross. He's taking the piss. So we'll leave him there. And Rhodey will be the last one to come across the line. So through Ravazza. A little wide, but that's okay. Matt Cecil did not improve on his last lap. So he will stay 9th. And Rhodey, he might be looking to just try and get a little closer to Rutledge. But as it stands, he's going to qualify 12th and 2nd in Class C. And he doesn't improve, so that will be where he sits. So that's qualifying for this evening. Cracker takes pole position ahead of Nathan Higginson and Steve Bolger. Then Will Devenish takes Class B pole ahead of Leonard Gersel in 6th. Termo, Luke Joyner, Matt Cecil, Lachlan Burke. And your Class C leader will be Cam Rutledge down in 11th. And he will have Rhodey behind him, Dane Liccardo, Mike Coulston, and then Lewis Wedding and Manuel Santino. Speaking of Lewis Wedding, he has chosen the name of Lucien Bianchi tonight. And Lucien was an important figure in the late 50s and the 60s in rally, in sports cars, and even in F1. So for our first feature tonight, we'll take a little bit more of an in-depth look on the name Lucien Bianchi. From rally to sports cars and even into F1, Lucien Bianchi's cross-disciplinary prowess was a story that few drivers can match, even with the glut of cross-pollination in disciplines throughout the 1960s. Born in Milan in 1934, Luciano Bianchi's association with racing was immediate. His father, Roberto, was a mechanic for Alfa Romeo. Specifically, he was a mechanic for Scuderia Ferrari, Alfa Romeo's motorsport division, pre-war. Post-war, Roberto moved the family to Belgium, becoming a lead mechanic for the notable jazz musician Johnny Claes, who had decided to pursue a racing career. Only 2 years after the move, Lucien got his first drive, in 1952 at the age of 17 as a co-driver in the grueling Tour de France Auto, a mixed stage rally event much like the cycling event. Bianchi and Jacques Hazert finished 38th, but importantly made it to the finish, and started a partnership that saw success in European rally under the Écurie Francorchamps banner, the direct rivals to the Écurie Belge team of Lucien's father. The two Écurie teams merged to form Équipe Nationale Belge in 1955, in part due to Johnny Claes' poor health, and in his final race, Claes chose the 21-year-old Bianchi as his co-driver in the Tour de France. With Claes unable to drive for long periods, Bianchi started to assert his position of a lead driver, bringing the pair to a third-place finish overall, marking Claes' last podium position. Bianchi's rally stature took another big step up as he returned to the Tour de France in 1957, this time paired with Olivier Gendebien, and took overall victory, which the pair repeated in 1958, and then again in 1959, along with a host of local rallies. Bianchi and Gendebien became household names in rallying. Bianchi got his first shot at Le Mans in 1956, driving a Ferrari 500 TR with Alain Deschaney, with the pair failing to finish. Bianchi returned in 1957, this time along Georges Harris, and got his first taste of sports car success, driving the 500 TRC to 7th overall and a class victory. Équipe Nationale Belge entered the 1959 F1 season with Bianchi and Chagny named as two drivers. Unfortunately, both failed to achieve qualification in their Cooper T51s at Monaco, their only outing for the season. They returned in an even older Cooper T45 to their home round at Spa-Francorchamps in 1960, and somehow Bianchi managed to qualify. And despite being 8 laps down come the end of the race, earned a solitary point for 6th place thanks to a last lap failure for Graham Hill. The Équipe Nationale Belge team suffered a series of setbacks and poor decisions before finally leaving Formula 1 in 1962, Bianchi achieving a total of 8 race starts across those 2 years. Bianchi returned its focus back to sports cars, taking an incredible string of accolades, including a Sebring 12 Hours victory in 1962 with Joachim Bonnier, a second place at the 1963 Tour de France, podiums at the 1964 2,000 kilometers of Daytona, the Angolan GP, winning the Zolder GP, another win at the Tour de France in 1964, and another class victory at the 1964 24 Hours of Le Mans, this time driving a Ferrari 250 GTO with Jean Blaton. His brother Mauro had also started racing, picking up a drive for the Renault Alpine squad. The brothers paired up to second place in class at the Targa Florio in 1964, before winning the 1965 Nürburgring 500 kilometer. Lucien's sports car career exploded, taking on factory drives for Alfa Romeo Auto Delta squad, the occasional drive for Porsche, and 2 races alongside Mario Andretti for the Holman and Moody Ford GT squad for Le Mans in both 1966 and 1967. He even had an attempt at qualifying for the Indy 500 in 1967, getting bumped to 34th while on a plane across the Atlantic to drive in the Nürburgring 1000 kilometer. Looking for some consolation, Bianchi drove an incredible race to lead onto the last lap of the Nürburgring 1000 kilometer, only for the battery to fail, resulting in a DNF. 1968 would be the best year in Bianchi's career, with a string of consistent results culminating in an invitation to drive for the Cooper team at Monaco, covering Brian Redman's commitments at the 1,000 kilometers of Spa-Francorchamps. Qualifying 14th out of the 16 cars, Lucien stayed out of trouble and finished the race 5 laps down, but in 3rd place overall. An unfortunate series of events for the Cooper team saw Bianchi being asked to stay on for the full season. Brian Redman broke his arm and suffered burns after a crash at the next round of the season at Spa-Francorchamps, while Cooper's other driver, Ludovico Scarfiotti, was killed after being ejected from his Porsche as he crashed during a hill climb event. The team would score no further points and closed its doors at the end of the 1969 season, Bianchi's podium being the last for the Cooper outfit. Bianchi's success story continued outside of F1 with an invitation to drive for the John Wyer Ford team alongside Belgian compatriot Jackie Ickx, replacing the injured Brian Redman. The pair won the 6 Hours of the Glen ahead of teammates Hawken and Hobbs, earning Bianchi another call-up when Pedro Rodriguez was looking for a co-driver for the 1968 24 Hours of Le Mans. It would be the biggest race of Bianchi's career, with the pairing of Rodriguez and Bianchi taking overall victory in the last Ford GT standing. The event and celebrations were marred, however, due to a horrific accident for Lucien's brother. 4 hours from the end of the race, Mauro's Alpine hit the wall through the S's and burst into flame. Mauro was lucky to survive, but he would never race again. Lucien only entered 3 more races after his brother's accident, the first of which was the ambitious London to Sydney Marathon, a rally running from London via France, Italy, Serbia, Hungary, Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, finishing with a 5-day crossing of Australia to end in Sydney. Arriving in Australia in 3rd place, Bianchi and co-driver Jean-Claude Ogier took the lead after reliability troubles for the leading teams. Less than 100 kilometers from the end of competition, the pair were involved in a head-on collision with a car that had mistakenly made its way onto the course, which hospitalized the pair. Bianchi's last 2 races were the Auto Delta SPA team driving alongside Nino Vaccarella. The pair DNF'd at the 12 Hours of Sebring, but returned to Le Mans to defend Lucien's title. During the test weekends for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the pair held the 6th fastest time in the brand new Alfa Romeo Tipo 33/3. After some trouble with the rear bodywork, which looked to be rectified in the pits, Lucien took the car out on track for a second run. Approaching Mulsanne corner, Lucien was reported to flick his indicator on as if to pull over. Instead, the car jackknifed to the left, hitting a phone pole at over 300 km per hour. Bianchi, at only 34 years old, died on impact. It was a tragic end to a sports car and rallying master who was just hitting his stride on the world stage. Yes, a very, very sad story at the end for Lucien Bianchi. And as we look at Lewis Wedding, who is running now the Ferrari 512 under the name of Lucien Bianchi, one of the many drivers in that era that was taken maybe a little too soon. There are some good parts about the progress of safety in that era, and we'll learn a little bit more about that last second feature tonight. But yes, the Bianchi name, of course, is a tragic name in motorsports. I'm sure a lot of people watching and driving will remember the last driver to die in Formula One, Jules Bianchi. They're actually unfortunately very unfortunately they're actually related, Jules and Lucien. So after Lucien and Mauro's massive crashes, their respective crashes at Le Mans, the 2 years 1968 and 1969, Mauro's son Philippe was forbidden from becoming a motor racing driver. And so instead he embroiled himself in motorsports in other ways, setting up a karting organization, like a karting dynasty, basically, so that way he could give his eventual son, every opportunity to live the career that he so desperately wanted. And his son was Jules Bianchi. So very unfortunate, tragic name in motorsports, and Bianchi had the reputation of a driver that was good in anything. He could make it very much like, say, a Fernando Alonso in modern times, would outdrive a car's capabilities to make it do things that it certainly shouldn't be capable of. And we saw that in rally and in the Tour de France specifically. The fact that he was so dominant over a period of time, no one else won the Tour de France in succession like that. For him to do it 3 times and finish second 2 further times in that streak is just incredible. So yeah, a very unfortunate story, and someone who could have gone on to more incredible things. Just as an aside, by the way, it is impossible to find photos when you search Bianchi Tour de France, because for those bike fans in the audience, they would know that Bianchi is a bike brand, and the Tour de France, of course, is the biggest bike race in the world. And so putting those two items together in a search bar ends up with a lot of two-wheeled push bikes, as opposed to the driver and his Ferrari GTOs. As an aside to that, by the way, the winning Ferrari GTO, the 250 GTO for the Tour de France, that I think it was Bianchi drove, or rather the group of the years prior to him, the team prior to him. I'm pretty sure that was the most expensive car ever sold at auction, somewhere in the realms of £40 million or something like ludicrous like that. But yes, very expensive machinery, and Bianchi's association with Ferrari, of course, goes together very, very nicely. 2 races tonight. We have had qualifying 2 20-minute races around the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari in the 1972 layout. The cars are just heading to the grid right now. We have a total of 15 entries, I believe. 16, in fact. And as we saw, both Lewis Wedding and Brendan Ross have decided to jump into the painted machinery as well. You can hear the revs in the background as we get ready for the races around this circuit. Here is Brendan Ross in the Porsche, and there's Lewis Wedding as we set off for the first of 2 races this evening. Here is the grid. We have Cracker leading off from pole in the Wildcat 917, the number 64 car. He takes the Class A pole. He's looking to gain back the championship lead in Class A. Nathan Higginson completes the front row in the equipped Higginson Engineering, running the green and white livery tonight in that 00 machine. Steve Bolger completes the Class A field in third place in the Averted Air 917, the number 87 car. Will Devonish leads Class B. Actually, I lied. There is more Class A cars. Will Devonish leads Class B in the MHRT Rob Harvey Motors Ferrari 312P. He currently sits atop the championship and looks to stay that way. Leonard Grosel in the Solar Productions 908 Short Neck is out of 5th place. Turmo is out of 6th, the MHRT Brian Harvey Panel Repair in the number 51 machine. He has teammate Luke Joyner in the MHRT Rob Harvey Motors, the second of the red MHRT Ferrari 312Ps, out of 7th place. Lucky number 7 for Luke tonight. Hopefully that is a good omen. Matt Cecil is the first of the Ford GT40 Mark 1s in the AP Sim Sport Ford GT. Lachlan Burke, a little bit of a struggle with his wheel, he told me in the interim. Hence the spinning incident. He starts in 9th. Then we have our Class C leader, a Class C pole sitter, Cam Rutledge, out of 10th place in the EMA Sud Matra. He has his teammate Rody in the 010 example for company out of 11th. Dane Liccardo behind the Class C machinery in 12th in the second of the LBR Ford GTs. Mike Coulston, the Class C Championship leader at the minute, sitting down in 13th. He's going to look to come through the field. Brendan Ross, Roland Ratzenberger, in the wildcard Porsche 917, the beautiful Austrian livery. I know that's not the right shape for that car, but that's okay. Jules Bianchi, Lewis Wedding in the SEFAC Ferrari SPA 512S. And rounding out the field, Manuel Centino in the Wildcat 906. 16 cars, 5 Class A machines, 3 Class B machines, if I am counting correctly, leaving a bumper, 7, 8 car Class B field. It's going to be a cracking race this evening. 2 races coming your way, and it will be this pair, Cracker and Nathan Higginson, leading us away. I can't really see the lights there, and we can't really see the lights here, but we're going to do it anyway. We'll start with the overhead angle. So you hear the revs rise. There's the lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're away. Great start from Bolger. Not a great start from Cracker from the front row of the grid as the field files down towards Tambarello. But it is going to be Cracker who holds on at the head as they come through the flat out corner. They're going 3, 4, 5 wide through here. And then into Variante Villeneuve. It is still Cracker who's managed to step out in front, but look at the gaggle of Class B machines as they fly through Variante Villeneuve into Tosa for the first time. Bit of a squabble here between Bolger and Higginson. Higginson managed to get that move done, but look at this group. We've got cars off on the inside. That's Lachlan Burke, Dane Liccardo and Brendan Ross there as they come up through towards Piratella. Look, you can see where Lewis Wedding has already gotten to. He's up already into 5th place as Turmo has Lachlan Burke for company as they fly back down towards Aqua Minerale. Big commitment on the brakes here as they dive down through the brick facade. Burke manages to hold his way out. Let's have a look at this front 3 though. Cracker from Higginson, from Bolger. Then there's Lewis Wedding, Leonard Grosel. And then there's, we'll hold it here actually. Leonard Grosel, Lachlan Burke, Turmo, Will Devonish, Matt Cecil, Cam Rutledge and Luke Joyner. There's Brendan Ross, Dane Liccardo, Rody, Mike Coulston, Manuel Centino. That's your field. Oh, and we've got Nathan Higginson spinning off at Ravazza. Big move, moment there. And he's dropping well down the field. Let's see if we can catch a quick replay. So it all looks very nice coming through Variante Alto underneath the bridge. Drifts a little wide, brakes very late, and there was no way he was going to pull that up. and he's spun, and he's down now in 11th place. He's going to very easily wrap up Cam Rutledge here, though. And we'll have a look at this. Matt Cecil versus Will Devonish. Devonish squeezes through before they get to Tambarello. A little bit of a graze on the wall there for Cecil. Got a little too greedy through Tambarello. He sits there nice and tight behind Devonish. Here's that next group up on track as well. Beautiful track, this Imola. Cecil just gets a little out of shape there and invites Brendan Ross to have a look at the rear of that AP Sim Sports Ford GT. And surely Ross can't go around the outside at Piratella. It's ludicrous. But maybe he'll get it done down the hill on the way into Acqua Minerale. There he goes. Nicely done from Ross as he pulls it up just. Oh, this is lively. 3 wide coming through the exit of Acqua Minerale. It's Devonish on the inside, Joyner on the outside, and Higginson trying to buy into it as well as they swoop through down towards Variante Alto. Higginson's got Turmo. There's all 3 MHRT cars there in one little gaggle. Higginson's going to swoop around the outside. Oh, it's a little too much. He's off in the weeds again. Turmo's manages to file his way through. And they're going to go 3 wide again. Oh, Turmo's run wide there. That's going to give up that position very much. There's Will Devonish and Luke Joyner. They're going to push each other down this back straight. Down this main straight, rather. Just a quick update on the front. Bolger has lost positions to Gersel and Bianchi. Well, that's Lewis Wedding, rather. And Cracker is out in front. We're going to catch that very soon. But look at this. 3 wide coming into Tambarello. That's Brendan Ross wrapping around the outside of the pair of them to take the position there, a 5th position. Nicely done by that group. Okay, we'll leave this very quickly and head up to the battle for the lead. It is Lewis Wedding versus Cracker as they come out of Tosa. The gap at the first sector mark, 900ths of a second. So very, very close to run thing. Remember, Lewis Wedding started from the rear of the grid. So he's managed to process his entire way through the field in the first 4 minutes of racing. Down the hill towards Acqua Minerale. Oh, there's a big moment there. There's contact, and they've crashed into each other, and it's all Lewis's Wedding's fault there. He's absolutely smashed the back of Cracker, and they've got to sit there while the rest of the field files through. And there's more contact. There's going to be a big one. Bang! That is a huge incident. Oh, that's incredible. Wedding's managed to get going again. Ross has gone off. Cracker's still stuck on the curb. He's gone from first down to almost last. And that's crazy. We'll see if we can scroll back and just have a bit of a look. So it was Cracker and Wedding stuck on the curb there. And then this pair, Turmo and Burke, got into the side of each other. And bang, they had nowhere to go. They actually righted Lewis Wedding there. He was able to just peel out the other side once he got hit. But Cracker was just absolutely done for. What a wild way to get that going. Wedding's already made his way past Devonish and Burke. He's up into 5th. Luke Joyner's on the tail of Nathan Higginson. I wonder if... I bet that move's just been made the other way around, rather. But what this has done is this has left Steve Bolger, who was seconds off the pace in qualifying, in the lead of the race. And quite comfortably too. He has Leonard Gersel for company. They were quite close prior to all of that malarkey. But I think Steve Bolger's Class A power has just been able to stretch himself away. This battle's still going on between Higginson and Joyner. They're still very, very close. Joyner may be a little quicker through the twisty bits as Higginson decides that drifting into every corner is the correct course of action. But we'll just watch them swing through Acqua Minerale. Higginson, Joyner, Lewis Wedding runs very wide. Lachlan Burke even wider. There's Will Devonish. There's Dane Liccardo. Matt Cecil. Cam Rutledge just kept his nose clean. He's in 10th position. And that's next will be Turmo. So you can see there, Higginson got a great run out of Acqua Minerale, and using the power of the Lola, he's just pulled away. As he managed to get this corner right for the first time this race. Right is a relative term. He's done better. So he should peel away from Luke Joyner. There's Lewis Wedding. He's going to catch up to this group very shortly. Will Devonish, Lachlan Burke, Dane Liccardo, and Matt Cecil. That's a train of angry Class B machines. Ferrari versus Ford. How many times have we heard that before? And let's pay some dues to Cam Rutledge here. He's kept his nose clean. He's kept his himself out of trouble. And he's ahead of Brendan Ross in Class A machinery and Turmo in Class B machinery. And his two nearest competitors, actually, are 17 seconds down the field. So he's got an absolute age of time behind him that he can play with. This is lively, though. Burke versus Devonish coming through Tosa. This is for second place in Class B, as Luke Joyner just loses position ahead. We'll catch that quickly to Lewis Wedding. No surprises there. Joyner currently... sorry, this is for third in Class B, because while Joyner is just ahead of this group, Leonard Gersel, of course, is 10 seconds ahead of this battling pair. So unless Gersel makes some sort of egregious error... I hope I got that word right. As Devonish just runs a wheel on the grass on the exit. He has a pretty handy lead in Class C. There's a few battles further down the pack, which is going to be... Oh, as there's Brendan Ross. He's coming back into existence. Going to be the faster class cars just coming back through the field. As you can see, Cracker here is 10 positions down. Very unfortunate to be wrapped up in that incident. It was really all Lewis Wedding's doing there. Just outbraked himself a little bit. Or maybe Cracker got on the brakes a little early, not too sure. Either way, the end result is nose-to-tail contact between the Ferrari and the Porsche, which spun the pair of them to the inside of the track. That was probably not Cracker's fault. What happened next to the pair of them definitely wasn't Cracker's fault. Getting absolutely cleaned up by Turmo and Burke, who were having their own accident. It righted Lewis Wedding and got him back on track, as Cracker makes easy work of the Matra of Cam Rutledge. But yeah, Cracker still facing the wrong way. Really didn't have any advantage there. He's still got to work his way through the field, though. He's got a lot of work ahead of him. This battle... Oh, we'll have a look at this battle. Nathan Higginson versus Lewis Wedding. Wedding's roped his way up to the rear of Higginson. And has made short work, unfortunately, of the Higginson Engineering machine. They are 6 seconds behind. Oh, goodbye, Higginson. He's clattered the curb there inside of Acqua Minerale, and then done a donut to celebrate as well. Unfortunate for Higginson. He's dropped down to 7th. Let's have a quick replay of that, because that was wild. Have a look here. He's clattered that curb, got the car up on 2 wheels, and somehow managed to avoid the wall. Oh, no, he didn't avoid the wall. He did just tag at the end there. Nice little donut to celebrate that one as well. Unfortunately for him, he's got a little bit of work now to do. So this will be intriguing here. So we've got Steve Bolger. We'll do a bit of a stock take here as they come through halfway through the first race this evening. We've got Flying Blaney in the chat saying, oof. Yes, indeed, oof is right. So here we go. There's Steve Bolger. He leads the race. Already, Lewis Wedding has passed Leonard Gersel for second. That's the pair, second and third. Gersel is the Class B leader at the minute, and then this is the battle for the rest of the podium. Luke Joyner, Will Devonish, rather, and Lachlan Burke. Good to see Burke with some good pace here. Here's Dane Liccardo and the recovering Nathan Higginson, and Matt Cecil and the recovering Cracker, and Cam Rutledge and the recovering Turmo. So that takes you down to 11th and 12th. Manuel Centino is some 20 seconds further back. We should see him. In fact, he hasn't even crossed the start-finish line. Let's find him at the minute. He's engaged in battle with Mike Coulston. So they're battling for remember, it doesn't matter that the gap is 25 seconds. It matters that this is for second place in Class C. And Coulston's just set his fastest lap of the race as well. So Coulston's on a charge. He's just trying to get past Manuel Centeno. Centeno seems to have something here that Coulston doesn't. And then in the background, Brendan Ross, a very broken car. You can see how much he's struggling to keep that car pointed straight on track. I think he might have had an off at Tambarello last lap around. And bring up the rear of the field at the moment is Rody. And he runs it wide at Tosa for good measure. Very wide at Tosa for good measure. I don't think I've ever seen anyone make that wall there, especially with that embankment. So after that little stock take, here's where it stands at the moment. Steve Bolger, Lewis Wedding, and Leonard Gersel. I'm going to keep eyes for a little while on this battle. Will Devonish versus Luke Joyner. So swing through underneath the start-finish barrier. Oh, hello. That's a nice camera shot. We'll go here instead. Will Devonish, Luke Joyner, and Lachlan Burke. Devonish has actually made that move on Luke that lap around. Last lap around for this pair. Devonish at 47.8 versus a 49.2. So I think the pass was made in the middle sector, I'm going to guess, just based on the time differential. But Joyner hasn't given it away entirely yet. Still very closely matched. Devonish just seems to be a little smoother on corner exit. So 7/10 the gap between this pair. Let's come through Piratella and down the hill. And this will be a very important exit here out of Aqua Minerale. Joyner goes a little narrow in entry, but does quite nicely through the middle part of the corner. The gap has basically stayed the same. It's been 1/10 that Will's been able to eke away. They've managed to jump away to the tune of 2 or 3 extra seconds. Now 5 seconds away from Lachlan Burke. Oh, as we've lost Nathan Higginson. And I'll just go and see if we can find a close on that. Just through Piratella, smacks the wall very hard. I think he had another incident earlier on in the lap as well. And I think he's just given it away, yeah. Had enough for the moment. So that's the end of Nathan Higginson's race. Cracker's just making his way through the field. And I think Will has just broken the back a little bit of Joyner. Just stepped out to a 1 second lead. This is beginning to get intriguing though. We have 5 minutes left in the race. The gap has come down quite remarkably. 46.6 for Bolger last lap around versus a 45 flat for Lewis Wedding. So that is the gap at the moment. That was 1.6 seconds, and the gap at the front is 1.2. Wedding has the lights on in that Ferrari 512S, and they're looking very, very mean. Oops. I'm still learning this broadcast thing. But look at that. The gap is naught as they come down the hill towards Variante Alto and into Ravazza. Bolger holds on for the moment, but that extra weight that he's carrying on board, remember 40 kilos on that 917, is not going to be doing him any favors. As he tries to bring the throttle up, the gap is much smaller this lap around. Have a listen to those beauties at work. Works of art these cars were. And the gap is 0.2 of a second. Thing is, Bolger is at his absolute outright pace here. 46.6. His last lap around was only a half a tenth away from his best lap. But Wedding is just so much quicker in that Ferrari in comparison. Wedding's last lap of 45.2. So he shaved off almost that entire margin as they come through Tosa. And it is going to be just a tenth or even less than 3/10. I find that very surprising. I think that's a bit of a glitch in the system there as they come out of Tosa. Wedding's gearing up for a move down the inside of Piratella. Surely you can't do that, Wedding. Surely not. But he does. He sneaks through. Bolger tries to take a little bit of a narrow exit and try and get the over-under. They're going to run side by side into Aqua Minerale. Wedding takes the advantage though. And unless Bolger can sneak it down the inside, I think that's going to be all she wrote. Wedding's away now, but he does lose the slipstream. This time, Bolger will have the slipstream, but look at that. You can already see the gap growing as they come from Aqua Minerale through Variante Alto and towards Ravazza. Bolger just can't keep up. The weight is just simply too much. And even if he tries to take a peek there, he's not going to be doing himself any favors. They've actually got Rhodey just ahead. Hopefully this pair should have the power to just breeze past down this main straight. Because if Rhodey is going to... there's no way Rhodey can hold on towards Variante Villeneuve and Tosa. Maybe just going to be a bit of a complication through Tambarello. Does very well to get out of the way there. So the gap at the front now already over a second as just a little brush on the wall for Wedding. A drive-through penalty for Brendan Ross. That's going to be for a track limit violation, which is very interesting as he just... that's where it was. Tagging the wall at Tambarello. This battle that we saw between Mike Coulston and Manuel Centino has gone the way of Mike. He seems to have stretched out a little bit of a lead. But look at the gap that Cam Rutledge has to this pair. 35 seconds. He is in another planet at the moment. His last lap time, we can see it on screen there, 52.2 versus Mike Coulston's best lap time, a 54.6. He's just in an absolute another league at the moment, is Rutledge in Class C. Turmo is still on the recovery drive. He has 7 seconds rather to catch Manuel Centino and Matt Cecil rather. Will Devonish is now behind Dane Liccardo, Lachlan Burke, and Luke Joyner. What's happened there to Devonish? Where has that come from? His last lap was a 148. He must have had some sort of problem earlier, and it was a 2-minute lap with a spin or some sort of off in the middle sector 2 laps ago. So that's why he's lost his time. He's on the tail of Dane Liccardo rather. They're going to go side by side here through Variante Alto underneath the bridge. But Devonish is on the wrong side here. If Dane can hold on around the outside through the kink, he's going to be in the inside. As long as he doesn't outbrake himself. He does very nicely there. Just boxes Will a little wide. Will's not going to be able to get the over-under because there's not really that much room on the inside of Ravazza there. Well done, Dane. That's good. That's nice racecraft from Dane there just to box him out. But now these guys are on their penultimate lap because our race leader, Lewis Wedding, is on the final lap of the race. We're going to get 12 laps. Oh, sorry, no. We're going to get +1 after this as well. So the time expires. We're going to get +1. So we're going to have a 13-lap race. So Luke Joyner just ahead of Cracker here. This is for overall position, but not for class position. So remember, Cracker as a Class A machine is only racing the other Class A cars. Joyner's done very well here, actually. Joyner, this is a Class B second place for Joyner at the minute, even though he gets passed by Cracker. Oh no, in the background you could just see Dane Liccardo going wide at Tosa and cedes position to both Will Devonish and Matt Cecil. We'll just have a look here. On the outside at Villeneuve, does he get it pulled up? No, he locks everything and runs wide. So a pressure mistake from Dane there, and he loses out to Cecil and to Devonish. Ooh, who tags the wall in Aqua Minerale. If he's able to hold on here, this is going to be a good result for Devonish in relation to his main championship rival, which of course is Turmo. Turmo is going to be only 3 places further back, but that's importantly 3 places in class. So that's going to really hurt his championship attack if he was looking at it. Although 4th place for Devonish isn't anything to write home about, especially if he's not going to be doing stuff like that. And I heard a crash, and I'm wondering... Oh, there's Devonish around. There's Devonish around. The crash that I heard was preemptive because he's gone around at Ravazza, and he's going to lose positions to both Matt Cecil and Dane Liccardo. And where's Turmo? There he is. So it's going to be on for this battle for the championship lead, remember. These two guys are the championship protagonists in Class B, despite being teammates. So this could be very, very tasty come the very end of the race. This is also tasty between the two Ford GTs. It's all happening here. We're trying to keep up with everything that we can. You're going to go side by side through Tambarello. There's a little bit of a touch there as well. They sling their way through the fast corner. Remember, these guys are meant to be flat out. There's lights ablaze from Matt Cecil. He does not look happy there. But I don't think Dane really had too much of a problem there. The side-by-side moment was fine, but that's a big dive from Cecil. And just gets it pulled up before taking contact with the rear of the Ford GT. We'll leave this pair just quickly to find our race leader, who's coming through Ravazza now. It has been a masterful recovery drive from Lewis Wedding. Remember, involved in that incident with Cracker early on at Acqua Minerale. He might even round up a few lapped runners, a few of the Class C runners here. Both Manuel Centino and Mike Coulston. He's going to leave them to have another lap, are they? Just Jules Bianchi. Lewis Wedding takes race 1 here tonight at Imola. Second place has gone to Steve Bolger. Then it will be Lennart Grösel in the 908. Taking Class B victory as well, does Lennart, with this 3rd place result. Cracker is a nice recovery. Remember, he was involved in that incident at Acqua Minerale with Lewis Wedding. And then it will be Luke Joyner and Lachlan Burke. But I wanted to see this battle between Cecil and Burke. And it's gone the way of Liccardo, rather, because of a mistake. And Cecil's dropped behind both of the MHR team machines who are battling for what positions? 8th, 9th, and 10th. So it's all gone wrong for Cecil right at the very end. How very unfortunate. Will Devonish manages to take 8th ahead of Turmo and Matt Cecil. That will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th in Class B, 6th for Turmo, and 7th for Matt Cecil in Class B. Class C goes the way of Cam Rutledge, a masterful display from the Matra driver, as we will be waiting a very long time for this man, the next place car in Class C, to come across the line. I think I might have accidentally turned down the game sounds just a little too much. We do want to hear these beautiful engines, of course. So Mike Coulston engaged in battle with Manuel Centino for the entire race. And it looks like Coulston is going to take 2nd in Class C. So despite the 45-second gap that he is ceded to Cam Rutledge, it will still be a 2nd place and 2nd place points. Well, Manuel Centino comes across the line. Rody was a lap down, and Brendan Ross had that drive-through penalty, so he will be at the tail of the field. And Nathan Higginson was the only retirements. There is race 1, won by this man, Lewis Wedding, in the Ferrari 512S. A masterful display, but potentially with a question mark heading into the next round because of the incident with Cracker. So that was race 1. Race 1 run and done. We'll have another race, progressive geared, coming up very shortly. But in the meantime, it is time for another one of our features here at Endurance Chat Media. We've been doing them. We saw one earlier tonight. Now, if I was to ask you or anyone in the server what the best Le Mans finish is, you might hear a variety of different answers. Some of the people who've been watching more recently might say 2016. That, of course, that famous final lap breakdown from the Toyota. Those who've been watching a bit longer might say 2011. One Audi R18 versus 3 Peugeot 908s, down to a 13-second gap at the line. Some might even say in the mid-90s, the Toyota GT the Toyota GT1, the dramatic wheel failure, puncture in the last 20 minutes, putting paid for that battle, or even Group C, 1983, both Porsches failing after the finish line, or the incredible 1988 race, the Jaguars versus the Porsches. Those who might have seen some popular media might say 1966 and the Ferrari, the orchestrated dead heat. But for me, the best Le Mans finish is 1966, and we'll tell you a bit more of that story right here with this feature. A streak continues, a breakthrough comes oh so close, a tragedy, and a one-man triumphant protest. Le Mans 1969 had it all. Coming at the crossroads of the Group 6 and Group 4 divide, the 1969 Le Mans saw the collide of the existing powerhouse of the Ford Motor Company and the new regime of Porsche. Porsche were the first to identify and jump into the Group 4 loophole, designing, building and homologating 25 chassis of the brand new Porsche 917 within 10 months. The 917 had proved competitive but unstable and had yet to show its true performance. The factory team featured two 917s, with Vic Elford and Richard Atwood alongside Rolf Stommelen and Kurt Ahrens, with a reserve car as well, plus a privateer entry in the hands of John Wolfe. Porsche also brought along three 908s, all in the Langheck body shape, which had secured the World Sports Car Championship for makes. Hans Hermann and Gerard Larousse, Rudi Linz and Willi Kalsinen, and the factory pairings of Gerhard Mitter and Udi Schertz, and the lead drivers Joe Seifert and Brian Redman were piloting the 908s, and between the Seifert, Redman and Mitter Schertz pairings, Porsche had won 5 of the 7 rounds of the 1969 season, and were at Le Mans with one clear goal in mind: take their first overall victory at La Sarthe. Ford were running the now ancient Ford GT40 Mark I, with 5 of the 5-litre examples entered. John Wyer's Golf teams were the reigning champs, and retained 2 of their driver lineups, Jackie Ickx and Jackie Oliver running last year's winning chassis, the Old Lady, and David Hobbs and Mike Hailwood in the second car. Ickx and Oliver had won at Sebring, but had otherwise been anonymous through the 1969 season. However, as the reigning champions, they were still a force to be reckoned with. Smaller efforts appeared in the form of Lola, Ferrari, Alpine, Matra, and Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo challenge in particular looked good for a class or potentially an overall win, with the new Tipo 33/3. However, the death of reigning champion Lucien Bianchi during the Le Mans test saw the Auto Delta team withdraw from the event, instead preparing last year's 33/B for customer teams. Come race week, it was Porsche who struck first, with Rolf Stommelen setting pole with an astonishing 3-minute 22.9 at an incredible 238.98 km/h average speed. The lap was faster than the best lap 2 years prior, before the creation of the Ford chicane. Porsche held 6 of the top 8 positions on the grid, with Ferrari's 312P holding 5th and 7th. An overcast but dry day greeted the 400,000 fans ahead of the start of the race, which started with the traditional Le Mans start at 3 p.m. In the middle of it all, a one-man protest took centre stage. While the rest of the field ran to their cars to begin the race, Jackie Ickx, driving the number 6 Ford GT40, very deliberately walked across to his machine, secured the door, safely fastened his belts, and was the last car to depart to start the race. His protest, attempting to draw attention to the lack of safety improvements, including the Le Mans start, was amplified immediately by the consequences of a first-lap accident at Maison Blanche. John Wolfe, driving the privateer Porsche 917, found himself sliding onto the grass verge and impacting the barrier, flipping the car onto its roof. As it happened, Wolfe had not fastened his seat belts and was thrown from the wreckage, succumbing to his injuries on his way to hospital. The Porsche's fuel tank became lodged under Chris Amon's Ferrari and burst into flame, destroying the Ferrari 312P. At the head of the field, Stommelen and Elford led their field in their 917s, followed by a string of 908s, Porsches occupying the top 5 positions. Their positions were maintained through to the first pit stops until reliability started to affect the new machinery. First, Stommelen's 917 suffered a transmission leak, dropping them from the lead and eventually forcing his and Ahrens' retirement. Seifert and Redman took up the lead before they retired just after the 4-hour mark, a split in the oil line destroying the gearbox of the 908. This left Vic Elford and Richard Atwood at the head of the field in the last remaining 917, leading the trio of 908s, followed by the Matra of Courage and Beltois, with Ix and Oliver in 6th place. Before nightfall, both Herman and Mitter's 908s had suffered problems, putting the Matra as high as 3rd place before it too suffered delays due to a broken taillight. The Porsches led the way during the night, with Elford and Atwood holding a 5-lap advantage over both Schutz and Mitre and Lyons and Carlson's 908s at the halfway point, with a pair of John Wyer Fords 3 laps further back and Herman and LaRousse on the recovery drive from 12th position. At 2:45 am, however, disaster struck the Porsche team. Coming into the Mulsanne kink, Schutz collected the recovering teammate LaRousse, causing the car to roll over and burst into flames. Miraculously, Schutz escaped with minor injuries, but the car was destroyed. Luckily for the team, LaRousse was able to continue with the bodywork damage, and Porsche maintained their 1-2 stranglehold on the race. That would continue into day for another 8 hours, before it all fell apart just before 11 am. Firstly, the leading 917 decided to part ways with its gearbox casing. Not even long enough to take the lead, the second place 908 of Lyons and Carlson suffered a broken clutch. All of a sudden, the Ford GT40 of Ix and Oliver was in the lead of the race, and the recovering Herman and LaRousse 908, who had spent the last 16 hours powering through the field, was in second. The 908 took the lead just after 1 PM, but the tired machine was running down on power and was suffering brake problems. Ix's Ford, on the other hand, was as fresh as the first lap, and was given permission to use the full rev range of the 5-litre V8 engine. The pair traded the lead lap after lap in the final hour, Herman able to slipstream past the Ford on the Mulsanne straight before Ix's better braking performance saw him take the lead at the Mulsanne corner. Ix determined that he could hold the lead from Mulsanne all the way to the line and pulled that move in the 23rd lap of his stint on what he hoped was the final lap of the race. Crossing the line 15 seconds before the end of the 24 hours, Ix would have to miraculously find another lap's worth of fuel and only just boxed out Herman's Porsche at Mulsanne corner on the final lap, crossing the line after an incredible final hour with only 120 meters separating the pair. The Ford team had taken a thrilling 4th win in a row and a second win in succession for that exact GT40 Mark I chassis, in a race where team owner John Wyer had rated their chances as approximately 0. The Ford had spent only 28 minutes in the pits as opposed to the 908's 52 minutes, with the brake warning light forcing Herman's conservative defense, later found to be an electrical fault. The closest competition finish in Le Mans history, the 1969 event was the race of the decade, and a chief turning point in the story of prototype racing at the Circuit de la Sarthe. Yes, an incredible story, and I think the best finish in Le Mans history. There's not too often you end a 24-hour race with the gap of less than 3 seconds, 4 seconds, especially at Le Mans. So it's an absolutely incredible story, and one that I think fades away in between the controversy of 1966 and the powerhouse that was Porsche's victories in the years after that. It was really at the crossroads between the Group 6 and Group 4 transition, and yeah, had the 917 actually survived that race, it would have won by laps and laps and laps. But as we know, as part of endurance racing, reliability is half of the battle. Luckily, there's not too much to worry about in reliability here, as we are ready for race 2 at the Gran Premio di San Marino at the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari at Imola. The group is just getting their heads around the grid. They're just settling in and getting all the weight penalties appropriate and making sure that they are all ready to go for the second race of the evening. Yeah, those Porsches, the 917 and the 908 and the Ford. The Ford, they ran like clockwork, like absolutely steady throughout that entire race, and took 28 minutes in the pits over 24 hours. That's incredible consistency from the John Wyer Ford outfit. And yeah, the Porsche they came with an armada of cars, and in the end, only one of them ran. Well, none of them ran trouble-free. Only one of them ran competitively, which was a big shame for them. It is, of course, also the first victory for Jackie Ickx in 1969, who would go on to become Mr. Le Mans. So, an absolutely storied legacy there. And that protest, by the way, Ickx's protest, was specifically in regards to the Le Mans start, but also in regards to safety during the late 60s. So, the year prior, in 1968, a driver... I'm going to find the name. I have a reference book next to me, and while I've got this reference book out, the Quentin Spurring Le Mans books, the official history books, are probably some of the best motor racing reference books you can find. So thank you very much to my my friend's dad, who lent me the 1960 to 1969 edition, so I could do some research for this one. And as well, I got to make mention to a Reddit user who goes by the username /the state of it, who put together a post on Jules Bianchi a few years ago that I remembered to refer to. So those absolutely incredible resources. Thank you very much to the two of you for letting me use them. But specifically the Quentin Spurring books, I got to get my hands on copies of these for my own references in the future. But yes, the one-man protest, Jackie Ickx's famous protest, walking across the grid. It was in particular to protest the Le Mans start after his compatriot Willy Mares had been the victim of an accident, the last event in the 1968 race in September at Le Mans. So he was the victim of an accident on the opening lap, and he had not secured his harness or his door. So what happened to the I think it was a Ford GT. What happened to the Ford GT coming down the Mulsanne Straight? The aero effect of the wind passing the car at 300 kilometers per hour ripped the door open and then off, and then sucks the driver out of the seat. So to protest the Le Mans start and the frantic nature of running into the car, jumping in, doing the seatbelts and turning it on, all of that which is just incentivizes to cut corners. That was Ickx's protest, and it would be the last year that they had the traditional Le Mans start. And nowadays the Le Mans start is a bit of a showpiece. They have all the cars parked at the 45 degree next to the pit lane, and then start them off behind the safety car for all of the WEC rounds. And the fact that Ickx actually just went on to win that race as well is remarkable in itself, and really hammered home the reason and the effectiveness of that protest, which was made doubly hammered home by another first lap incident to John Wolfe. There's some little bit of history for you for the 1969 Le Mans, but we are now back talking on the 1972 Imola Circuit as the field steps away for the formation lap for this second race. And leading us away, it will be Steve Bolger, as it appears that Lewis Wedding has elected to start from the back of the field once again. So Steve Bolger will start us from pole, and he will have the Class B race winner, Lennart Glösel, for company on the front row of the grid. Cracker makes his way into third, and he will have Luke Joyner. A very impressive race from Luke. Class B second place and fourth on the grid. Looks like we just lost someone there, but that's okay. We'll plow on regardless for the moment. Fifth place is Lachlan Burke, and he has teammate Dane Liccardo in sixth place for company. Seventh place is Will Devonish, and he has teammate Termo on the fourth row of the grid for company. Matt Cecil, that late spin taking him out of contention late on in the race. He will start from 9th. And we have the Class C leader, Cam Rutledge, starting from 10th. Mike Coulston starts from 11th, and Rhodey will start out of 12th. Brendan Ross running a Roland Ratzenberger, cosplaying as Roland Ratzenberger tonight, will start from 13th. And Nathan Higginson, after a DNF in race 1, will start out of 14th. Lewis Wedding has elected to go to the tail of the field. We'll start from 15th. And unfortunately, Manuel Centino has had to jump out of the race tonight. So 15 cars for the second race this evening. And it is sure to be a interesting encounter. I'm sure Cracker will hope that... Oh, as we've got Leonard Grossu, who's gone back to the pit lane. So a problem here for Leonard. He might... well, he'll definitely have to start from the pits now. It'll be a matter of whether or not he can start from the pits. I was about to say, I'm sure that Cracker is hoping that he doesn't get wrapped up in another incident, because he had some serious pace tonight in practice and qualifying, and I feel that if he doesn't maximize that pace by taking a race win this evening, he is not, he's going to be kicking himself. So the field coming through Ravazza and just getting ready to start the race and to grid up. So bit of drama before the start. Our Class B leader is in the pit lane. We'll see very quickly. He's still in the garage here. So we're not sure whether or not that is a technical problem or whether or not he's left the server. What I'll do quickly is I'll very quickly check that he's whether or not he's in the server. He is still in the server, so it is possible that he could be ready as we are on the grid. Oh, I'll get rid of that. And you can see the lights just in the left front of shot. The grid is ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. And we are away. Great start again from Bolger. He's really got that launch sequence. And he's just bolted from the head of the field. As they come through towards Tambarello, he's got a massive gap over Cracker. And then the squabble of Class B machinery, led just by Dane Liccardo, who got a great start as well. Oh, it's actually Lachlan Burke in that car that's got the great start. And look at that on the outside. It's Brendan Ross again, just filing through the field. The Class A cars really firing through the field as they head towards Tosa for the first time. It's Luke Joyner who dives on the inside. We've got a spinner. Oh, it's Steve Bolger's calamity. Joyner's on his roof. It's all gone wrong here at the beginning of the race. Higginson's gone around as well. Joyner gives Bolger a little bit of a love tap. Let's have a look at what happened. So Bolger, it looks like he got onto the grass there, spun in the middle of the pack, gets collected by Cracker, and there's Luke Joyner on the scene. Bam. Straight onto the roof. Very unfortunate for Joyner, had really nowhere to go. And do we have Leonard Grosser? No, he did not make it out of the pit. So 14 cars taking the start, and already high drama at the beginning of the race. So where do we even go from there? Okay, well let's start from the top. It is Cracker ahead of Lachlan Burke, and then Termo and Lewis Wedding is your top 4. That's the group fighting over second place. Behind them it is Matt Cecil and Dane Liccardo. Both of them run a little deep. Dane a little more deep. Brendan Ross even more deep. And then Will Devonish jumps up into 6th place after they all take their excursions. And Class C, it's Rhodey from Mike Coulston. Cam Rutledge has not had the best of starts. He's actually dropped away from his starting position. A very slow first sector for Cam, so not sure if he got held up somewhere. But he's certainly not had the best of starts. And then there's Steve Bolger and Luke Joyner and Nathan Higginson. Higginson must have had another off because he's well down from that group. And Joyner looks like he's done, actually. He looks like he's taken his foot off the throttle and is just pottering around, which is unfortunate. Rutledge is on the charge down at the tail end of the field. We'll catch up with that a little later on, because this is where all the intrigue is at the minute. Matt Cecil and Will Devonish. Cecil's flashing the lights. He's getting real angsty behind Will. And they've got Brendan Ross coming up behind them for company. That's going to complicate things. And immediately Rossi has forced Cecil to take defensive line and has lost that position. But remember, of course, the only positions that matter are the one against class runners. So that's not too much of a problem for Cecil. Have a look a little further up. Turmo versus Burke. This is for class position, and this is for the Class B lead as they come down towards Variante Alto. Under the bridge, there's the right-hand kink, and Burke swings ahead and closes the door on the 312P. Rides the curb there, does Turmo, as they gear up for the run down Ravazza. As you just see Cecil wildly across the track in the background there. Surprised that the slipstream isn't having too much an effect on these cars. As first Cracker, then Lewis Wedding break the lap record. Lewis Wedding a 44.8. In fact, he's going to be right on the tail of Cracker in any moment. But this is the battle where we're looking at now. Turmo to the outside through Villeneuve. Can he get it pulled up into Tosa? Looks like he can. Well done. So Turmo takes Class B lead. Oh, and Burke jackknife there. Just got a little bit of wheel spin and Rossi's off. Rossi's off into the weeds. Up the embankment. Gets it spun around and back on track. But that was a big moment for Rossi. So this is the battle at the front now. The two unaffected Class A cars, Lewis Wedding and Cracker. We saw these guys battle last time around. And remember, it was a little touch on the rear of Cracker from Lewis Wedding heading into Acqua Minerale that caused chaos through the field. I wonder if Cracker's a little nervous seeing that red Ferrari in the background. He certainly looks a little nervous as he runs wide at Ravazza and completely cedes the position to Wedding. And then he spins it on his own accord as well. So not a good turn there for Cracker. And he's going to be stuck as the rest of the field comes past. There goes three of the Class B cars. And he's stuck on the apex. Just gets missed by Dane Liccardo and Matt Cecil. So he's dropped down now to 7th. Ooh, pardon me. And that leaves Lewis Wedding. Oh, what's happening to Wedding? He's just let everyone through? I'm confused. He's gone through the pits. Oh, what a weird turn of events here. So now, Class B lead. This battle is now for overall. Burke to the outside. They make contact through Villeneuve. Is Burke going to be able to pull it up? Turmo goes very defensive. Switch across the top, but he goes deep. Goes very deep. Devon is just trying to buy in as well. Turmo goes wide, and Burke's going to sweep through and take the lead as they're going to go into Piratella. They're going to go side by side into Piratella. Burke's ahead just as they hit the sector marker. Now, Devonish and Turmo are going to go side by side. Are they? Devonish to the inside through Piratella. Just gets it pulled together. Great stuff. These two have been engaged in massive battles throughout the season. We saw last time at Brands Hatch, these guys put on an absolute show for us. And it looks like we might have another show once again. I'm just going to quickly leave these guys to have a look at this Class C Honours. Cam Rutledge versus Rhodey. We expected Rutledge to really pull away from this, from everyone else after a impeccable race one. They both just moved over just a little too much to let Higginson by, but Higginson hasn't gotten it together through Acqua Minerale. Threads the needle though on the exit. But I'm surprised that Rutledge hasn't just immediately cleared away from Rhodey. There must be some sort of problem maybe as they come down towards Variante Alto and into Ravazza. Rhodey does very nicely to just keep the Matra ahead. We've got yellow flags in this section. And it's for Dane Liccardo. What's happened to Dane? We'll have a quick look. And it looks like a technical problem. Oh, he's done the engine. He's completely cooked the engine. You see the smoke coming out the back. There it is. So he's absolutely cooked it. And that's all she wrote for Dane. So he's done now. He's stuck. And he will not be going any further in this race. Luke Joyner seems to have lost more time than he should have. But at the moment, at the front, it is Will Devonish from Lachlan Burke and then Turmo. So while we were looking at the battle for Class C honours, this is all swapped around. They've also got Lewis Wedding in. Really complicating things is the Class A runner in this Class B melee. Cracker is 8 seconds behind this battle. And that's going to be quite the gap to try and pull back, especially with Lewis Wedding in this group. Lewis will probably pull away given the power of the 512, the 5-litre engine compared to the 3-litre 312. The 12, of course, being the amount of cylinders each of these cars have. So, very small cylinders must be in the 312 for a 12-cylinder engine to have 3 litres. And there goes the 512 on the inside. Lewis Wedding breezes past using the superior power of the Class A machine to slide on by. Devonish set his best lap of the race last lap around, a 47.5. He was the fastest of this group. Matt Cecil himself has just set a new personal best. And we'll see if we can quickly find Steve Bolger. Remember, he was involved in that first lap fracas. And he's slowly making his way back through the field. He's in 9th position, but has the next 2 cars ahead of him are Class A cars, which will be worth points. But we'll just leave that to go back to the front. Oh, yes we will, because Wedding's collected the wall at Aqua Minerale. And has been very lucky to end up facing in the right direction. He's gone back to the tail of that group, the group of Class B runners, but he is still facing the right direction. That's important for him. In fact, we'll just see if we can quickly get a replay. See if there was any reason why that happened. Looks like he just carried way too much speed, hit the wall on the outside, and that sent him over the curb on the inside. Bit of a mess there for Lewis, but he gets it all together. And he's already made it back past both Lachlan Burke and Turmo, who are side by side themselves now coming out of Ravazza. So who's going to win here? Who's going to blink first? Turmo has the slipstream. He pulls out very late on in the piece. And he's just going to come towards the inside. And makes the move done. But Burke has not given up on it yet. Gets the inside line into Villeneuve. But doesn't quite have it to take the over-under. Oh, yes, he does. Great run out of Tosa. They're going to be almost side by side coming over the sector marker. 19 thousandths of a second, the pair of them are. And it's Burke again who has the lead. They're going to Piratella. There's a little bit of contact, a little bit of contact, a little bit of buff, a little bit of budge. Burke has the ascendancy coming down into Aqua Minerale. Immediately goes on the defensive, taking away that inside line. And they're going to run into Lewis Wedding here. Wedding playing the cork in the bottle. He's really in the way here. Unfortunate for Burke, he had a great run through there and immediately got balked. And Wedding is just going to pull away. He's almost definitely running with some damages, Wedding. But that doesn't really bother the power of the Ferrari. While this is happening, this is just letting Will Devonish just stretch out to a 4-second lead already. As this group flies through Ravazza. Turmo just a little bit wide on entry there. Now Burke's trying to scavenge as much of the slipstream of the 512 as he can get. Tracking that car down the main straight. The 512 still pulling away. that would be a not insignificant advantage that Burke's getting, because Turmo's just fallen away a little bit from the rear of Burke after that mistake at Ravazza, and it isn't in the slipstream nearly as much. So Burke's getting a nice little tow from the 512. I wonder if this is intentional from Wedding, just trying to help Burke out a bit as they come through Tosa once more. Again, Turmo just not quite getting the power down the way that he needs to at the moment. And Burke has built up almost a second, in fact over a second, over his Class B rival. Remember, the fact that Will's just ahead isn't really that... the fact that Lewis is just ahead doesn't really bother Burke too much, because they're classified separately for points. So really, Burke is going to be focused on keeping Turmo in the car behind him. We'll quickly leave this group to go and check out this little battle. Matt Cecil has the 917s of Brendan Ross and Steve Bolger just ahead and behind. Oh, a little bit of a drift there from Cecil. Just tacked the wall, Aqua Minerale. And that should allow Bolger to just ease on by. And there he goes. So Bolger's made his way back into 7th place. That is still only, what, 3rd, 4th for Class A? Check in with our Class C battle, and Cam Rutledge has managed to overthrow Rhodey and stretch out to a 2-second advantage. And Nathan Higginson hasn't made any inroads. Saudi Camel, Mike Coulston isn't too far behind. Someone who is too far behind is Luke Joyner. Remember, on his roof at the beginning of the race. This is your race leader, though. It is Will Devonish, and he's got a 4-second advantage over Luke Joyner. Not Luke Joyner, rather Jules Bianchi, who is actually Lewis Wedding. So what we'll do, just as they come over this crest here, is we'll hold off the camera and we'll have a look at the gaps. There's Will Devonish, there's Lewis Wedding, and then Lachlan Burke and Turmo. They're getting chased down by Cracker quite aggressively. Remember that how that gap was 8 seconds? It's now only 3 to Lewis Wedding. Then there's a 20-second or so gap, or 15-second gap, and we should see next the Porsche of Steve Bolger, who's gotten ahead of Brendan Ross. Then there's Matt Cecil. Then it's quite a significant gap back down to Cam Rutledge. Quite a significant gap to Cam Rutledge. Quite a significant gap to Cam Rutledge. When are we going to see that blue little Matra peak over the rise? There it is. He's got a few seconds over Higo, who's now made his way through on Rhodey. Just in the background next will be Mike Coulston. There he is. And Luke Joyner is another 30 seconds behind. So we won't wait for Luke. We'll catch up with this, because this is tasty. This is Burke versus Turmo once again coming across the line. It would be a photo finish if that was the end of the race. But it's going to go 3 wide, because Cracker's going to buy into this as well. And Cracker's going to wrap around the outside of both of them in Tambarello. Turmo just manages to sneak ahead through that flat out corner, but they're getting a bit of a tow here from the 917, and they're just sucking themselves along. And Burke's the one who's managed to harvest the best slipstream, and he's got the inside line into Tosa. Turmo goes deep under brakes, but manages to pull it up. So 3rd, 4th, and 5th overall is this battle pack at the minute, and it is Turmo who has got the ascendancy in that Class B battle for the moment. Burke again on the inside of Piratella, sneaks his way through and just manages to... Is he ahead? He's just ahead. Only just, very just. But Turmo's got the inside line for Aqua Minerale. Side by side through there is not going to be pretty. But they managed to do a little bit of contact on exit, and that's actually pushed Turmo just a little bit further ahead. So Burke's got a little bit of work to do to try and reel in the Ferrari now. Once again, side by side through Variante Alto. Turmo gets a bit of a slide on. He's going to narrow up his entry into Ravazza. Plows the front of the car just a little wide. Burke's trying to get the overlap. We have 2 minutes left, which means that we will probably have, if we can find where Will Devonish is crossing the line, it's going to be very tight on whether or not we get another lap or not. It's going to be very tight. Devonish, we might end up getting only, or we might get 13 laps, or we might only get the 12. These guys side by side again through Tambarello. This time it is Turmo with the inside line, but Burke takes the wider line and actually takes the head of this battle. But Turmo dives at the inside of Tosa and will take that position once more. Interestingly, the gap at the front has come down quite dramatically. Last lap around, a 147.6 for Will Devonish, a 45.7 for Lewis Wedding, as Turmo takes that position once again. So Turmo's not hanging around, but also Lewis isn't hanging around. He's really trying to get onto the tail of Will Devonish and try and make that move. Oh, a mistake for Burke, and he's gone wide, and he's lost 3 seconds, 4 seconds. It's an incredible amount of loss, and it's going to hurt him all the way into Ravazza as well. That gap is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So a big mistake for Burke, and he's going to be ruining this this miss. Because look at how big the gap is already. Already, all it took was one small mistake. We'll get a better idea as they come across the line. But it wouldn't surprise me to see that gap now over 3 or 4 seconds. So let's catch up with Will. Let's see, does he cross the line? He does, with 1 second left. So it will be 13 laps. But it will be Lewis Wedding on the inside who gets through Tambarello. But Will's just managed to sneak back around again. This shouldn't be the case. The Class A car should be flying through here. Maybe Lewis is just being a little conservative. Just trying to make sure that he gets to the end because of the fuel requirement. And they've got Cracker not too far behind. That's Luke Joyner as a lap runner just in between there. And then Turmo and Lachlan Burke. So that gap was 2 seconds at the control line. It's going to be a little larger now. They should have gotten the sector mark, but apparently not. Oh, Burke missed the sector mark, so that's why he seems to be dropping down the order. Don't pay that too much mind. Let's have a look through the rest of the field, see if we can cash in on any battles. Unfortunately not. It just seems that this battle now is the one to watch. Lewis Wedding just ahead of Will Devonish. Tantalizingly ahead of Will Devonish. But of course, with Will being the slower class car, he's not going to have the outright pace to really challenge unless Wedding does more stuff like that. And you know what? I think Wedding's doing this on purpose. I think he wants someone to race, and he's giving Devonish the draft down the main straight. And you can just see the difference in these cars in the classes. They were nose to tail coming out of Ravazza, and now Wedding is a good half a second ahead and still gaining. So it is Wedding from Devonish from Cracker as we start the last lap. Turmo has gotten the ascendancy over Lachlan Burke for that battle for second in Class B. Then this is the battle for third in Class A. Steve Bolger versus Brendan Ross. Bolger just holding out at the minute. Then Matt Cecil in a bit of no man's land. Nathan Higginson even in more no man's land. Cam Rutledge well ahead of the rest of the Class C field. Then Rhodey and Mike Coulston with Luke Joyner a lap down and facing backwards on the exit of Tosa. Just got a wheel on the grass, up onto the verge and parked and away. We had 2 retirements tonight. Leonard Grossel, unfortunate not to be able to make the start. And then Dane Liccardo blowing the engine into Ravazza. So, unfortunate for him, not able to continue. But it has been a masterclass tonight from Lewis Wedding, winning race 1 in quite comprehensive fashion and looking to win race 2 as well. Big drag of the inside front brake on the entry to Ravazza, but it will be all academic unless he decides to completely pull out of it right now. And we have seen that in the past. We have seen Lewis do that before, and he does. He's going to let Will Devenish through to take the overall victory. Well done, is Will Devenish, who's driven a great race from 7th on the grid to take the victory after Lewis basically gave it to him. Cracker ended up finishing in 2nd as well, which is the Class A overall win. The Class A win, rather. So that will put him potentially back ahead of Steve Bolger in the championship for Class A. Tomo comes 4th, which is 2nd in Class B, and then Lachlan Burke in 3rd. Steve Bolger did come home 3rd in Class A, and then Brendan Ross in 4th in Class A, 7th overall. Matt Cecil will be the next car to cross the line, down in 8th place. There he goes. And then it will be our Class C victor, Cam Rutledge, making it 2 from 2 tonight. Not quite as comprehensive in the first race, where he won by 40 seconds. But still a solid victory nonetheless. In fact, Nathan Higginson pips him at the line for 9th place, but that's neither here nor there. Rhodey will hopefully be the next car to cross the line. In 2nd in Class C. And then Mike Coulston as the final runner on the lead lap. And there he goes. Luke Joyner has found his way into the crowd, which is the second most interesting thing to happen to him tonight after he got through halfway through lap 1 onto his roof. Unfortunately, Dan Liccardo blew the engine, which saw his retirement, and Leonard Gersel never made it to the grid. That was race 2 this evening at the Gran Premio di San Marino at Imola. And we have our class winners in the booth with us. We'll start with Will Devenish. Will, congratulations on Class B victory in the second race tonight. You must be thrilled with an overall victory as well. Well, mostly.
Are we sure it's an overall victory?
Yes, it was. It was in the end. I'm not sure if you saw that on the outside, but Lewis Wedding absolutely lifted off and let you come through for the win.
Oh, I thought we were talking about a round win, but
potato tomato.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, up and down night. First race just was not really gelling with the car. Spun it about 3 or 4 times, and yeah, second race we came through and it didn't put a foot wrong. So pretty happy with that outcome.
Yeah, it was a very tumultuous first race for you, but importantly, you finished ahead of your direct championship rival in Termo. That second race, though, is the sort of stuff that dreams are made of. You were untouchable, really, and managed to progress your way through the field.
Yeah, it was it's like parting the sea most of the time with the crashes happening. So, yeah, pretty lucky with it.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, just lucky.
Fair enough. You do need a little bit of luck in this game. And as well, you extend your lead in the championship. Only 3 rounds left now. Looking very close.
Yeah, it'll be tight with Tomo. He was a bit disappointed tonight, and I imagine he'll come back strong for the remaining rounds.
Yes, only 3 rounds left, and you've put yourself in good stead to take a Class B Class B championship victory. Will, congratulations on your second race win tonight.
Thank you.
We'll go to Class A winner next, and that was Cracker. Congratulations, Cracker. That's your second class victory. Yeah, how was that race from your perspective?
Yeah, the second race not too bad, although I pulled a shitter there on the second lap, I think it was. But anyway, came back through, and I was hoping to have one more lap to try and catch Will there, but couldn't quite get the time. But anyway, it's good. It was good.
You did very well closing what was an 8-second gap across the course of that second race. This is a very good result for you because with Bolger finishing a bit down the order, it actually keeps the championship battle in Class A very tight. Are you looking at that championship, or are you looking just at each race as it comes, even with it so close?
Definitely looking at the championship. I think having a little bit less weight than Bolger and not quite as many wins has evened us up a little bit. So I had the advantage on this track, that's for sure, with big long straights and carrying a bit less weight into some of those corners. So always looking at the championship for sure.
And you made the most of the long straights. How did you find the class separation here? The Class A cars seem to have just an absolute leg up on everyone else. Was it more simple to progress through some of the traffic? I mean, unfortunately, you had to progress through quite a fair bit of it tonight.
I suppose it is easy to get through some of that traffic down those long straights, and until you get to some of the classier drivers like Will, they're hard to catch in the lower classes. But it was quite good. It was a shame that Leonard dropped out as well. That would have been interesting as well. So
yeah, that would have been a cracking race. Unfortunately, not to be. But either way, a Class A victory for you, Cracker. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, bloody.
No problems. And the Class C victor, the only driver to take a pair of victories tonight, Cam Rutledge. Cam, you were in an absolute league of your own in that Matra tonight. Take us through your races.
Yeah, I found both races really, really enjoyable. The car felt like it was on rails tonight. It was handling really well. But like the last 2 or 3 rounds, I've been pretty much nearly finishing last. So I felt this is good for the motivation and bit of a redemption. So hopefully can be back with mojo and hopefully fight with the boys more often.
Yeah, well, you didn't even have to fight with the boys tonight. You were well out ahead of them. In that first race, you had a 40-second gap. What was it about tonight and this track that gave you such a that meant that you had such a pace advantage on the other Class C runners?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Like the boys kept asking me what have I done to the car, and I'm like, well, it's pretty much just base setup. It was just feeling really good, and I guess because we did pre-season test here, it just felt comfortable to me. The first race, 40-something second lead, and that was purely I just had fresh air and I was just able to put laps down. But in the second race, I had a few little issues, but yeah, still happy to come away with a pair of wins.
Yeah, it was a great race from you, Cam, and hopefully that will see you towards the top of the Class C Championship. 3 rounds left. Congratulations on your pair of victories tonight.
No worries, thank you.
No problems. And that wraps up all the action from the TCAC Le Mans Minis, Retro Minis, rather, round 7 tonight at the Imola Circuit. Next event will be in a fortnight's time. We'll return to the endurance format at the Le Mans Bugatti circuit. So not the full circuit, unfortunately, as delectable as that would be, but the shorter Bugatti circuit, which you may know from MotoGP. Until then, I've been Michael Zolivari. Thank you very much once again to NetherRealmian for all of the broadcast graphics and to Brock for putting the mod together, all of the TCAC admins for their hard work behind the scenes, and my mate's dad for lending me that Le Mans yearbook, and everyone else involved in the series. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Michael Zolivari. Peace out!